Oh, we're closed at 21.
Okay.
We're at 25. And we're still 49, so that's quorum.
Okay, great. Let's get started. Thank you. So welcome everybody to the March meeting of Community Board 8. Happy St. Patrick's Day. A couple of things before we get started here. First of all, if you do want to speak in the public session, you have until 6:45 p.m. to sign up. So just be aware of that. And our State Senator Liz Krueger is here, so let's turn it over to her.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm up here in Albany. We are starting the state budget process fairly intensely right now. So it's been a busy week, and you might have seen some press stories around the budget. I am really proud of the One House budget my Senate conference put out. And there are materials that we will have up online if we don't already very soon. But we decided that we needed to make a commitment to the future with this budget, that this was not just a let's see how much of the federal money that's coming in will be spent on refilling holes in the gap that became very, very real this year. But how do we make sure that when the federal money's gone a year and a half from now, we have an ongoing revenue stream that meets the needs of the population of New York? And truly, we've been doing austerity budgets for about 10 years, and it's caused real pain. So I'll just give you an example. We have a mandatory cap on Medicaid spending. It's called a global cap. And it was set in 2011, where we can't go up more than 2% a year on what we spend in Medicaid. But because of changes in federal law and state law, the growth of the Medicaid program since 2011, we've moved from 4 million New Yorkers to 7 million New Yorkers on the Medicaid program. It's actually a very cost-efficient health insurance program. But you tell me how you have a cap on how much you spend that hasn't grown when you've nearly doubled your program in 10 years. It's mathematically impossible. So we are trying to take a deep dive on that. We're taking a deep dive on finally getting the education funding formulas addressed as a lawsuit ordered us to do also probably 10 years ago now. We're trying to do a deep dive on real investment in the kinds of job training that people throughout the state of New York need to move into our new economy. There's like 16 pages of line items, and I'm not going to read them to you. But of course, we also have a revenue plan that balances what we are hoping to be able to spend. And we're getting some criticism, as we knew we would, for significantly increasing taxes, about $7 billion annually, but only on people who earn 1 million a year as a single adult or 2 million as a couple filing jointly. So unless you're paying taxes as someone who has wages of over $1 million a year, our tax increases will have no impact on you. And we do corporate taxes also. But you know what? In 2018, a guy named Donald Trump came along and passed a giant federal tax cut on the exact same populations. So I don't want to prove it to you tonight, but I'm happy to prove it to anyone who wants me to. The amount of tax increase New York State is calling for on the wealthiest New Yorkers is just a drop in the bucket of what they saved between 2000 and 2017 and 2018 with the Trump tax changes. And so we will continue the debate, and we will end up in some budget over the next few weeks. But I'm not exactly sure how it's going to go, because people keep asking me, how does it work to negotiate a budget with a governor who you have called for to resign? And I would agree that makes it a little more complicated. About the majority of legislators have now called for him to resign. Our 2 US senators have called for him to resign. Our almost entire Republican and Democratic congressional representatives have called for him to resign. There are at least 3 investigations into illegal behavior, some involving the sexual harassment of women who work for him, some involving the falsification of data about people dying in nursing homes, some involving falsification of data on the safety and the expenditures on the Mario Cuomo Bridge. I absolutely believe that he is too compromised legally and morally to remain our governor. I wrote a full letter to all of you if you get my emails, or if you want to take a look at my website explaining why I took the position I did. But he's still the governor. So my view is, as long as he is the governor, we need to continue to get our work done. So I am very busy negotiating with his staff, not him directly, on the budget. And I am also negotiating very closely with his senior staff on seeing whether we can actually get legalized marijuana done at this time, combined with an expanded medical program, combined with an expanded hemp CBD program. And you've heard me talk about this. I've been working on it for 5 years. We're 98.5% there. I absolutely believe we will get this done quite soon. And I will be thrilled. One, because I never want to work on marijuana again. I actually hate the stuff. This is not why I went down this road. I believed it was a social justice crisis, and that it needed to be fixed. And I'm hoping that we're getting around to fixing it, and then I never ever want to say or hear the word marijuana afterwards. And I've taken up too much time, Russell, so thank you for letting me go on a little while.
Thank you very much for that update.
Thank you.
All right, so now we will go into the public session, but before we do, couple of housekeeping updates. Will give us the rundown of the process and raising one's hand in Zoom and all of that.
Yeah, welcome everyone. So you'll notice that you are all muted. You're unable to unmute yourselves. So during the public session, we have the list of your names as you signed in, and your topics that you want to speak on. So what will help Russell is whenever he calls your name, that you'll use the raise hand feature that you can find in the reactions button at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand in the participants menu so that we can see you easily and pick you out and unmute you. Whenever Russell calls on you and we start the timer, you'll have a 2-minute timer. You'll need to confirm unmuting on your screen. And if you're calling in from the phone, it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. And just a friendly advice that the chat only goes to me, and so it will not go to the speakers and the chair. And so please only use that for Zoom software problems. It's not to speak to them. And if you're using an older version of Zoom, you'll find the raise hand feature in the participants menu. And after that, it's back to Russell.
Thank you. And just a friendly reminder that the chat is also part of the public record of the meeting. So let's start with Jessica Masters. If you can raise your hand so Will can find you. And next up will be Bruce Spiegel.
Not seeing anybody.
Okay, next is Susan Peters.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great, thank you. I'm Sue Peters and a member of New Yorkers for WireTech. I've spoken over the last several months informing the board of the health danger with the introduction into our city of 12,500 wireless antennas on practically every street corner, 8,000 already installed and 4,500 being installed now. If possible, I would like to present this health issue before your Health, Seniors, and Social Services Committee also. The New York City Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications approved all antennas in one shot, ignoring thousands of peer-reviewed studies to the contrary. Some of the information I've spoken to you about: 2013, the International Agency for Research on Cancer classified radio frequency fields, which includes cell phone radiation, as a possible carcinogen to humans. 2018, the U.S. National Toxicology Program, a 30 million two-year rodent cancer study, showed clear evidence that radio frequency radiation can lead to malignant tumors in male rats. October 2019, Scientific American published an article saying that 5G is a lot more harmful than the government and telecommunications industry want people to believe. December 2020, an article in the Washington Spectator outlines how the telecom industry has captured our government regulators and the press. Scientists worldwide have produced 2,000 studies that warn that these devices expose people and animals who develop tumors in the brain, thyroid, prostate, acoustic nerve, and breast. You can read the articles with their sources on my personal website. I can send you the link. And I leave you with this: a typical antenna in our public space outputs between 15,000 and 75,000 times more power than is necessary to make a cell phone call. Please,
Thank you.
please read.
Next, we will have John McClement.
John, if you could use the raise hand feature.
He's got his hand up. John's iPhone.
Just confirm unmuting. There you go.
Okay. I'm John McClement. I live on East 85th Street between First Avenue and York Avenue. And this is an issue I've raised before the board, although it's probably been a couple of years. The behavior of bicycle riders on the east side is completely out of control, and they don't stop for lights. If they do, it's a judgment call that they make at the last moment. And I think senior citizens in particular feel particularly endangered by this. Now, I don't know what you can do about it, but the police don't seem to want to do anything about it. When I raised the issue with them, they say, well, all we can do is put a car out and maybe they'll stop. And when we go away, they'll keep on. And that's, to me, that's not a satisfactory answer. So I don't know what you can do about it, but I think something has to be done before someone gets killed or very badly injured. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Stephen Beninati.
There you go, Stephen. You're unmuted.
Hello. My name is Steve Beninati. I live on East 83rd Street and 2nd Avenue. I have very similar concerns regarding bicycles and safety of pedestrians that the previous caller just voiced, especially in particular with restaurants that have huts that are serving the public, where there's a bicycle lane between the storefront and the actual hut. I have witnessed in a variety of different situations where bicycles are really whizzing by, virtually hitting a server or a pedestrian that's about to enter the hut. This is concerning. The other issue that is a repeated issue and a problem is bicycles using sidewalks because perhaps streets are congested or streets are impassable for whatever reason. This has to be some type of policing or enforcement issue. I'm in favor of the bike lanes and I'm in favor of using alternate transportation, but I think that the community board needs to be aware that there's a public safety issue at hand and it needs to be addressed. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Community Board 8 member Adam Wald.
I'd like to yield my time to Nan Richardson, who I believe will speak right after me.
That's right. We'll go to Nan Richardson.
Can
Go
you
ahead,
hear me
Nan.
now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. And I'm speaking here on behalf of the 39 constituents of this district that are families that attend the New York Harbor School. I'm the chairperson of the school C committee, which stands for Expansion and Advocacy. And for 10 years since the school first moved to the island, we've been asking the DOE and the city for another building that would allow us to have a pool on the island, because the situation of the school right now, we moved to the island with the promise of access to water, but we have a school that's a marine school, a maritime school, has to travel with 2,000 pounds of equipment 4 times a week with 85 kids to Bushwick, the most landlocked part of the city, in order to be able to get its training in and swim. It's a totally marine school, 600 strong, and we've been asking for 11 years now since we came to the island. And with the ULURP in Governor's Island, we have an opportunity. So we're asking you as a community board to join Community Board 1 Manhattan, Community Board 3, Community Board 2 in Brooklyn, Community Board 6 in Brooklyn so far, and write a letter of support to allow the Harbor School to be given Building 515, which the SEA has agreed would finally get us the facilities that we need to fulfill the mission of the school. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Jessica Gilo.
Jessica, just unmute. There you go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for your time. I'm on 73rd Street between 1st and York. We have a complaint about Petaluma Restaurant is using their outdoor dining space on the street level to store, to not use it for dining. Actually, they are storing all of their chairs, their barricades basically in a pile on the street. They are moving them to actually park their own vehicles in the street, in the space that's designated for outdoor dining. And in this neighborhood right now, considering the outdoor dining situation, there's already a shortage for parking our vehicles on the street. But we think that this is really an abuse of the space. They are using it completely for their own personal gain and really all of their equipment. So we want we had filed complaints with 311 and the NYPD, but no one has really done anything. We've also witnessed the staff move all of the barricades to make space for their own vehicles, basically since the summertime. So we just wanted to raise that issue with the neighborhood.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from a representative of Lexington Pizza and Restaurant, which is, this is an application that's actually going to be heard by the Street Life Committee, or in the Street Life report, I should say, later on this evening.
If you represent that restaurant, could you please raise your hand? Use the raise hand feature in the reactions.
Okay, next, Wendy McIver, please.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yep.
Awesome, thank you. I wanted to say that we have a small geographical area that we are concerned with in CB8, and we are a vibrant neighborhood, even with people having moved away, even with COVID, even with all of the assaults of nature and government, we still care for each other, and we are trying to figure out ways to share our very limited space in peaceable ways. And tonight, I know we have before us at least one of the two major proposals. One is from the state and one is from the city regarding zoning and land use. And you've heard me come before you for over 2 years now, talking about the necessity for environmental reasons for a 210, an absolute 210 height cap, and for all of the excuses that have been given regarding going higher to accommodate affordable housing, which hasn't worked in the last 40 years. And yet we still have this the same continuing discussion with no movement. It's very frustrating for voters to feel that they don't get represented. And instead of a state top-down proposal or a city top-down proposal, what we really need is to have more of a bottom-up proposal. We need to be more connected to gathering data of the opinions of the actual voters and residents here. I did hear that in the zoning committee, we were talking about the fact that most of our residents and voters are white, but we also have a tremendous influx every single day of workers of color in our hospitals, in our restaurants, throughout our area. And we need to protect the quality of life and health for those workers as well. So I am proud to say that Community Board 8 has come out against the state proposal to override our zoning, and against in committee against the city's proposal to have what is termed as an overarching plan for the city, but is in fact a way of grabbing away choice from people, shuffling off people to outer boroughs and out of their neighborhoods, and breaking up a great neighborhood and area. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we have one more speaker signed up in the, oh, I shouldn't say that. We have two more, but the point is, if you are one of the people that I previously called on who was not seen in the chat, Jessica Masters, Bruce Spiegel, and a representative from Lexington Pizza, please do raise your hand so that we can call on you. But next we will go to Andrew Ravishir.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak, and I hope everyone's having a great St. Patrick's Day and that we're all celebrating at home safely. Normally I speak advocating for a 210-foot height cap, but today I would like to speak about the mechanism through which we can achieve that directive. In the last month, Community Board 8 has discussed Speaker Johnson's proposal to strip local participation in zoning matters as a means to streamline the process and allowed for a citywide approach to building and city planning. While the idea of a plan is helpful, the current proposed initiative is not. Speaker Johnson's idea would bring about a top-down process in which tax-paying citizens would get little to no say in the zoning process, while luxury developers who often buy out our elected officials would gain greater control. As Corey Johnson has announced his candidacy for controller, this plan becomes especially alarming. Because it is clear that zoning protections are under attack, now is the time for Community Board 8 members to create our own zoning plan and engage with the broader community. This board is blessed to have at least one architect and planner, and if we want to have bottom-up, community-oriented and centered planning, it is incumbent upon us to create it. We can proactively cut off any zoning takeovers from the city at large if we create a proposed zoning plan that has an absolute 210-foot height cap, a mandatory amount of housing that is affordable, green space and solar panels, incentives for developers and construction unions to retrofit and rehab older buildings rather than develop new projects, mom and pop shops, and other factors that the board would like. Then we must preemptively market it to local press outlets and work together with other community boards and local organizations to do the same. Our window of opportunity is narrow, but it's now. Candidates entering office in the next year will have a large task ahead of them, and we must help them shepherd in a new era of collaboration and participation that protects our housing, street life, and local economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Angela has her hand up. You're a representative of Lexington Pizza.
Just unmute Angela.
You're muted again.
Try that again.
Now they can hear.
Hi, how are you? From
Good.
Lexington Pizza and Restaurant. I did a license renewal and I'm asking for a waiver. A liquor license renewal. I'm asking for a waiver because my accountant did not include the letter of the 30-day notice to the community board. So if I can please get that waiver to get my license.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, can we just go back to Angela again?
Yes.
Thanks. Yeah, you had some more time, so I just wanted to ask quickly,
Okay.
was the issue was an oversight that you left it out? Can you just explain
Yeah.
more about why you need the waiver?
My accountant does my renewal every year. So he had a new girl do it in the office. She did not include a letter. She didn't send a letter to the community board. And then
Got it,
she
okay.
sent it on February 22.
Okay. And sorry, can you just say a little bit about the nature of the application? Is it relates
Well,
to a renewal or?
And it was expiring January 31st, so we've been trying to do it since then. So she sent in the waiver February 22, the community letter.
And you're renewing it on the same terms that it's been in existence before?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to get some information
Yes.
after when we hear it later.
Yeah, the liquor authority wanted the 30-day notice receipt. So we didn't have that because she didn't include the letter.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we will hear from Ruth Brodsky.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, this has to do with the zoning, and I know this is not a zoning meeting.
You're coming in a little faintly. If you can speak up or raise your volume.
This is about zoning, and I know this is the full board, but I saw on CBS News tonight a piece about the blood center on 67th Street, and that the mayor is very much in favor of it, as is the city council. Now, I know we've been speaking about this on the zoning board and that you have been very interested and on top of this. But if we keep this a secret, I'm not sure that the city council and the mayor really know how much opposed the community is to this blood center. It was disturbing to me because it was obviously all one-sided. And I don't know if anyone else saw this, but you might want to see a tape of it so that we don't keep this a secret anymore and let the city council and other people know how much we're opposed to it and why. They discussed that the top floors, which are going to be rental, are for medical offices and laboratories, which are going to help the pandemic and all the other medical issues we have in the city. So this is just to alert you that the mayor and everyone is in favor of it. And I don't know if our voice is amongst ourselves or if we're getting this message out. I hope we're getting it out, and if not, I hope we will. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, that is it for the public session. So let's move to the next item on the agenda, which is the adoption of the agenda. Do we have a motion to do that? You can give a thumbs up. That's
Taina.
okay. And a second? I'll second. So are there any, is there any opposition to that?
Alita.
Nope, Lee's got her hand out. Okay, so it doesn't look like it. Okay, so the agenda is adopted. Next, adoption of last month's minutes. Is there a motion to adopt those? Rebecca
Michelle.
has her hand up. Michelle can second. So that any opposition to that?
Barry.
Get down, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so those are adopted. So let's move on to the next item, which is the Manhattan Borough President's Report. Is Gail or Isabel here?
Isabel.
Hi, everybody. Sorry for the delay. The board president is going to deliver the report herself.
Okay. All right, we will be back to that.
Thank you.
So let's move to the other elected official reports. So if you are here on behalf of an elected official, please raise your hand and we will move through you in turn. So first I see Rebecca Grigas.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. This is Rebecca from Assemblymember Dan Court's office. I hope everyone is doing well. So for the next 3 weeks, the Assembly member is going to be working hard, reviewing and voting on the budget. I know there's a lot to discuss, and he has a lot of focus on needs for our district, like fully funding the MTA, education system funding, and funding for the public health system. So if anyone has any comments about what they'd like to see in the budget, please reach out to our office, as well as about people having difficulties with getting vaccine appointments. I know Walgreens has been a bit of an issue for constituents over the age of 60. They're having difficulty making appointments. So if you need help figuring that out and scheduling appointments, again, please feel free to reach out to our office via phone or email. We are around every weekday. And that's all I have to report tonight. Have a great meeting.
Thank you. Next, Jack Robbins, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jack from Assemblymember C. Wright's office. Just a few things. Last week, we held a press conference outside our community office. We gathered women and young girls from our community, including Peggy Price, co-chair of your Women and Families Committee, to celebrate the beginning of Women's History Month and calling on the passage of the Equal Rights Amendment here in New York State and the federal level. As Rebecca has mentioned, and the senator in Albany, both the assembly members and senators are very busy with the budget. Office is very accessible, and please feel free to reach out if we are your assembly member to see, to let us know what your priorities are. The assembly member is very proud of the Assembly One House budget that was introduced, and its focus on small businesses, public education, both K through 12 and college level, and the necessary funding that it included also for healthcare as well. Assemblymember C. Wright's 6th Annual Women's History Month Awards presentation is on Tuesday, March 23rd at 7 p.m. The Assembly member will be honoring women of distinction from our community, including women serving here on the community board, healthcare workers, young students, and volunteers who all spend their time bettering our community. The event will be on Facebook Live and Zoom. Please call, email, or visit our office to RSVP. Phone number 212-288-4607. Our email is cwrightr@nyassembly.gov. We continue to hand out our free masks and hand sanitizer every Thursday at our York Avenue office on York Avenue between 79th and 78th Street. Between 12 p.m. and 2 p.m., please stop by if you are in need of masks or some hand sanitizer. And again, our phone number 212-288-4607, or you can send us an email at cwrightr@nyassembly.gov. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Mike Stinson.
Thank you, Russell. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all who celebrate today. Just one update from our office. Comptroller Stringer announced that we have this year's MWB University Series dates out. And the university is designed to expand access and opportunities for minority and women-owned businesses seeking to do business with the city. MWBE University is a year-long series of workshops designed to help MWBEs get certified with the city, navigate the procurement process, and gain access to city contracts. This year's series of workshops will address a variety of topics, including how to hire a chief diversity officer, how to attain seats on boards, and how to navigate minority depository institutions, among other issues. Along with opening the doors to city contracting, MWBE University will provide businesses with opportunities in contracting directly with the Comptroller's Office. We have interpretation in Arabic, Bengali, Cantonese, French, Haitian Creole, Korean, Mandarin, Nepali, Russian, Spanish, and Urdu, as well as CART translation. So I'll drop the link in the chat, but our first one is coming up next week, March 23rd, from 11 a.m. to 12:30, and that one will be focused on how to prepare for credit and capital, even in a pandemic, where businesses can learn best practices from minority depository institutions to access capital even during crisis. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Russell.
Thank you. Next up is Violet Gear.
Hi, everyone. This is Violet from Councilmember Keith Powers' office. I have 3 quick updates from us. First is that our office recently launched a Your Shot program to help residents navigate the vaccination process, which just aims to ensure that everyone has the assistance and the information that they need to make an appointment, determine if they're eligible, and anything else. So if anyone is having trouble making an appointment, if you need help with your technology, if you have questions about the different vaccines, or if you want to volunteer with the program and help other folks who are having, technological issues with that, please reach out. I'll also drop the link to the forum in the chat so you can sign up there. The second is, as others have mentioned, the City Council has started preliminary budget hearings for the various city agencies and services this past week, with many more to come in the coming weeks before the next fiscal year as budget is created. And it's no secret that the city will have to deal with the continued impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. So these hearings are crucial in devising a plan to move the city forward. In other budget news, Councilmember Powers is assessing the needs of the district to decide how to best use the discretionary funds allotted to our council district through the city budget. And these funds really help us empower various causes and services that help us make our district better and our city a better place. So we're very excited about it, as always. And the last quick thing is just something our office has been hearing a little bit more about recently. In January, the council member introduced legislation, Intro 2207, to allow tenants to postpone apartment inspections until after the pandemic. Local law 55 of 2018 requires owners of buildings with 3 or more apartments to annually inspect units for indoor allergen hazards. If you would like to postpone yours, the legislation hasn't been passed yet, but our office is happy to help work with your landlord to have that conversation and see if we can request a postponement of your apartment inspection until after the pandemic is over. So thank you, Russell. Thanks everyone for your time. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you. Next is Terrell Brock.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Terrell Brock, and I'm community liaison from State Senator Jose Serrano's office. And I want to mention that last month, 2 of the senator's bills to preserve and protect Parkland passed the New York State Senate. On February 4th, the Senate passed the senator's bill S1355 to protect our Parkland by ensuring alienations result in replacement public spaces. Municipally owned Parkland is vital to communities. Once lost, city Parkland is difficult to recover. The alienation of local Parkland should be limited to instances of compelling public need where no alternative is available and should be accompanied by replacement Parkland. On February 24th, the Senator's Bill S1426 to require recycling in city parks and historic sites passed the New York State Senate. It also requires signage encouraging visitors to use trash bins to carry out what they bring in and provides assistance to these programs. Protecting our precious Parkland is vitally important for our communities today and for generations to come. and the senator continues to distribute hand sanitizer and masks to individuals and organizations in need. If you or someone you know is in need of supplies, please do not hesitate to call our office at 212-828-5829 or send an email to serrano@nystate.gov.
Thank you. And rounding out our elected official reports, we are pleased to be joined by Councilmember Ben Kalos.
Thank you very much for Community Board 8 and all that you do. For those of you who are here as members of the public, these members of Community Board 8 are uncompensated. This is a volunteer position. It takes a lot of hours every single month, and they really do deserve our appreciation. For those who are celebrating Happy St. Patrick's Day, we are in March. It's been a year. We are still here. And mourn those that we lost. It's been a rough month. I got to celebrate my 40th birthday. Thank you to those who reached out with condolences. We just don't get a chance to stop. We don't get a chance to stop. It's just how it works. You have to keep on going, especially when time is so precious. We had our State of the District. You can catch up on it at benkalos.com/stateofthedistrict/2021. You can hear from Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Carolyn Maloney, Borough President Brewer, and dozens of community leaders who have worked with us to get a lot done. We've been on a roll each month opening new affordable housing. We got 11 units back at 94th Street, and we had an information session. That closed on the 11th, but we have more affordable housing coming down the pike. A lot of folks have been concerned about the empty storefronts. One of the problems we've had with the empty storefronts is we don't know who the people are behind the LLCs. Almost every store in our district is owned by an LLC. And I tried calling them, and they apparently don't have numbers. So I introduced legislation that would require them to actually tell us who the humans are behind all the LLCs. There's so many people who are out of jobs right now. And we are asking that instead of it being about who you know for getting a job in politics, I'd like for folks to be able to get a job in government. And that means posting every single job. I want to thank everyone. We have next month coming up in April, our participatory budgeting, where we're going to be asking you to vote on how to spend $1 million in the neighborhood. The blood center, it is still an environmental review. We're working with the borough president to question some information we learned around the type of labs they're going to have on site. It's level 3. Coronavirus is considered level 2, similar with and Ebola is level 2. So concerned about level 3 facilities being added to the district. There was an article about some of the affordable housing we've been losing on the Upper East Side and us barely getting new housing. But one of the things we pointed out in Patch is that that's because we're losing rent controlled and rent regulated walk-ups that are being replaced with barely enough market rate. And so that's pretty rough. Thanks to our Congresswoman, we've gotten a lot of COVID relief coming to us, several $1 billion. That's really going to help us. Vaccines have been expanded if you're over 60 or if you are a public-facing government employee. So hopefully our community board staff can get their vaccines and we can get our offices, both government, all of our government offices open again. Pre-K's open for application and would love to work with the community board on 3K. And on Thursday, we're going to be introducing legislation modeled on what we've been doing with Community Board 8, which is to have a task force to find more early voting sites. So that's it. And I went a little bit too long. You can read the rest in our newsletter. If anyone has any questions, you can always hit me at Ben Kalos on social media or email me bkalos@benkalos.com. No one ever asks me questions, so I don't expect to now. Seeing none.
No, we don't do.
Abby Damsky from my office will hang out. She always does.
Thank you.
I miss seeing all of you, and I can't wait to see everyone in person again.
Likewise, hopefully soon. So with that, we will move to the next item in the agenda, which is the chair's report. So I have a couple items that I want to talk about. First of all, tragically, there was a fire in our district earlier this week in which one person died and several people were injured. So I just want to express the condolences of the board to the family and friends of the person who died, and our wishes for a speedy recovery for those who were injured. The second item that I want to talk about briefly here is something that's been in our FAQs on our website for a long time, the street tree program. And, it's been there for a long time. And I think I actually had somebody ask me about this, and I thought it would be useful just to talk a little bit about it because I don't think it's as widely known as it should be. So, a lot of people don't realize that it's possible for people to request a street tree on your sidewalk in front of your building. You have to have the consent of the property owner, and the Parks Department will do an assessment of whether it's possible to put a tree in there, given what underground infrastructure there might be. But assuming there's no issue there, it's free of charge, and once they get requests from property owners or with consented property owners, you can have a street tree put in on your sidewalk. So it sort of sounds too good to be true in terms of how sort of simple it is, and obviously it takes some time. But I just wanted to alert folks to the fact that that is out there. And then the last thing that I'll say is just a reminder to everybody as we get into our committee reports. As ever, please try to be brief with your remarks. Try to get to the point as quickly as you can, and the goal should be to try to keep it to two minutes if you can. Although obviously we don't time the board members. So with that, let's move to the district manager's report.
Thanks, Russell. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. Excuse me. I sent around an email recently, and I think you probably all also received it from the borough president's office directly, but the MBPO is doing their board member trainings. Those are open to board members, public members, and if there's room, members of the public. So if you didn't get a copy of that, or if you would like another copy of it, please just let me know. I had a great meeting with the census regional director, Jolie, who you guys all heard from several times over the last year. She informed me that there are a bunch of really awesome census maps that are great for students and for classrooms. So if you know any teachers or educators who would like some of these maps, reach out to me and I'll help connect you. And then finally, I just found out from Cornell Tech that they have a public meeting tomorrow that will feature former President Bill Clinton on the future of democracy. And the Roosevelt Island Committee wanted me to raise that. So if you would like that information, it's at 5 o'clock tomorrow. And you can just reach out to me for that.
All right, thank you. So with that, let's move into our committee reports. And the first report is from the joint meeting of the Housing Committee and Zoning and Development Committee. So we will turn it over to Barbara, Ed, Greg, Anthony, and Elizabeth.
Anthony?
All right.
Unmuting all of you guys. Sorry, 1 second.
Okay.
You can get started though.
Okay. The committees held a joint meeting on oh golly, it was ages ago.
Last Wednesday in February.
That's right. Last Wednesday in February, and at that meeting, I'm just looking. Here it is.
Yep.
At that meeting, basically, we were talking about the governor's attempt to hijack our zoning approvals as in sort of general opposition to Part L of the state budget for fiscal year 2022. And so the point of the conversation, of the discussion, was that this part of the budget is an amendment to the multiple dwelling law that added a section governing conversions in certain areas of the city and allowing certain automatic zoning overrides, which will supersede all of our local zoning laws, resolutions, ordinances, and regulations. Now, the purpose in theory is some sort of economic relief for owners of Class B and Class C office buildings in certain parts of the city, and also essentially economic relief for owners of small hotels in a rather larger area of the city, and virtually all of the city, as a matter of fact. And the idea being that these conversions would be able to take place between now and the end of 2026, I think, although they may have in fact changed that to 2024 in order to convert them to housing. And I think the minutes pretty well describe what the activity of this bill would be, and the joint committees passed a resolution, which we now present to your for your voting pleasure, that in opposition to this, and in fact, I think we demanded, but if we didn't, we asked for the withdrawal of this portion of the budget.
We did demand.
We did demand. Okay. So I guess the answer is, I guess the question is I don't know what we do next exactly. That's pretty much what we did. The motion is on the floor. Thank you, Barbara.
Yeah. Any?
So, yeah.
Any hands? No hands? Nothing?
Call the question.
Yeah. Thank you, Barbara. Second?
Peter Patch.
Peter Patch.
Thank you, Peter. I see Alita put her hand up as well. I think that's a second. I see.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. So any opposition?
Calling the question.
To calling the question. Again, thank you, Barbara, for the clarification. Seeing, oops,
No, wait a minute. Craig later. Craig?
Hi, I was on record as being in attendance and supporting it. I was not in attendance at that meeting, so, and I just wanted to make sure that was cleared right now.
Okay.
I'll make a note of that.
Okay.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, so apparently the question has been called. The motion is on the floor to demand the withdrawal of this of Part L of the fiscal year budget 2022. And I guess we now turn the voting business over to Will.
To Rebecca, I believe is.
Oh,
All
to
right.
Rebecca, excuse me.
If you'd like to vote no, abstain, or not vote for cause, please raise your hand.
Don't see anybody. I don't see any hands.
And
No.
Adam, I believe you voted differently in the meeting, so I'm just checking.
No, not on this one.
Oh, no? Okay, then the motion passes unanimously.
Wow.
Wow. Rolling.
Okay, and so that concludes the joint meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we will move to the Landmarks Committee, David and Jane.
While I'm doing that, actually, our borough president has joined us. Do you want to let her speak between?
Yes, Borough President Gail Brewer, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I will continue.
Oh, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Gail, we lost you.
I think I'm okay now.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Board 8. There's just a few things. First of all, on the endless discussion of vaccines. So you know that every Tuesday at 3 o'clock, we've had the Manhattan Vaccine Task Force, to which you're all welcome to join us. And I think the most recent was interesting. Walgreens, to their credit, has been doing vaccines, and they've been doing them in great numbers. But they were kind of brought in at the last minute, and they have to get rid of their doses. So they've had issues with the website and the call center in terms of not having enough people to answer the phones. They had to put in staff to the nursing homes around the country, not to mention New York. And, but the gentleman who came was just, to be honest with you, such a transparent discussion. He admitted what he had done wrong and looked for support. That's sort of unusual from a large corporation. So I think people appreciate the fact that he's trying really hard to get shots into arms and doing it with a much smaller staff than normally would be done at such a large effort. So that was one aspect. And then the second one is, how is the city going to handle the individuals who are at home? I don't know if it's completely worked out, but just so you know, we're very intently focused on that. It's really exciting also to have had a pop-up at Stanley Isaac's. I think they were there for a few days. We were there at the beginning. Some of you may have been there also. So I just want to thank Board 8 because there's a lot going on in your area on that front, and it continues. I want to thank you, Chair, and Trish and others who are very intently focused on Kohler. I thought that the ceremony that you were at and I was at and the Congressman was at and others was very moving. It's an example of collaboration. I do also know that Vincent Pierce, I believe, has been nominated for a really big award. We'll see if he gets it. He's in the final throes. Others are also competing, but it's all thanks to you. It's thanks to you and the residents of Roosevelt Island that there's such support for this particular group of individuals. And of course, we're going to try to, you do need to work with us and the island to figure out what to do with the vacant portion of that building, because I worry every day that given real estate in the city of New York, somebody comes up with the idea of doing something with it that we don't want. So just be aware that that might be something for your discussion. But to say that there's a lot to be done in terms of getting the residents to be able to walk around, move around, wheelchair around to figure out what, how to see family and friends is still something that we've got to work on, not to mention visitors to Kohler. So in terms of the Tuesday at 3 and tomorrow morning. So tomorrow morning is Borough Board, 8:30 in the morning, and Senator Schumer is coming. Coming means virtually. But I don't know about you, but when you bring $6, $10, $18 billion into the state or the city, I worry because I want it to get spent correctly. So Senator Schumer will take questions. He's dying to have people ask him questions. I know he's come to your board. He's going to I give him credit. The man is in person, three-dimensionally on his bicycle on the weekends. And he's done the same thing with this Zooms around the city. And yet he's still the majority leader of the United States Senate. He really talk about energy. So he's going to be there at 8:30 tomorrow morning. He'll be talking about the federal stimulus. I've heard him many times on some of these Zooms, but I haven't heard him since it passed. So it'll be interesting to see what is it that he is suggesting are some of the highlights. And we're also going to have the director of the mayor's office in Washington, D.C. It's an office that I worked in at one point. So that is a really important office. Only 6 people in it, but they participate in the markups for the city of New York. So you're welcome to join us early tomorrow morning. In addition, instead of on Thursday at 3 talking just about the vaccines, which are still important, we're also going to pivot a little bit to talk about the dollars federal coming into the city, but particularly for Manhattan. And there's so many challenges. I know in talking to Congress member Maloney, Chair Squire, you may have done the same. She had a lot to do with bringing money to the city of New York as chair of oversight, a lot. But, and there is, individuals in Washington who are doing oversight, but we need to do our own in Board 8 in addition to everywhere else. So one of the issues, she said, you know, in some cases, like with education money, it often goes to Title I and there's a formula. But there is not necessarily a formula for housing, for instance. Like what exactly is HPD going to do with that money? And so there's a list like that. So we're going to try every Tuesday at 3 to pick topics with your input and try to figure out what you would like to do, and then try to, you know, figure out what the city's going to do, et cetera, et cetera. It's so huge in terms of, thank God the money's coming in, but making sure it goes in the right direction. I also just want to say, again, thank you to the East Side. So just last week, I was at a new building that is, I think it's on 83rd Street, and it's a passive house, and it has affordable housing. And you should be very proud. It's one of the few, if not the only, passive house means that basically zero climate challenges. You know, every single aspect is energy efficient, and this particular building is 25% affordable. So it's a big deal. And again, it's in your district, and you should be very proud. I think all the topics we talked about before, we're still working on the helicopter task force with Congressmember Nadler and Maloney and Velasquez. They have a bill, we'll see if it passes. It would state helicopters cannot fly over non-essential helicopters, cities of 8 million or more. I think there's only one. So the question is, how do you make sure it passes in Congress? And it's not so easy, because when you have LA and Chicago and Houston, it's easier to get something passed. But that's one solution. Another is the one that passes, is to try to get the folks in New Jersey to stop their helicopters from coming to Manhattan. We're trying all fronts. There's no one front, because nothing is 100% foolproof. We're still working on the Alaska rink and the Woolman. The city has put out an RFP for Woolman. We would prefer that it be taken over by the Central Park Conservancy, but just so you know, that's still up in the air. I know you had a discussion about some zoning plans. I have a lot of respect for Speaker Johnson, but I do think the comprehensive zoning plan that he proposed would be a challenge in terms of being executed and having your input. So I did testify against that. And I want to say that, you know, this open culture, which are the opportunities for the arts to be in our streets, are excellent. We just have to be clear that those that are working in the inside venues really do get, in my opinion, sometimes they're in venues that are run, or at least have the opportunity to be union, and they just can't be non-union. At least that's my suggestion. So thank you, Will, for talking about the upcoming training series. It's pretty exciting, some of the opportunities to learn, all free of charge. And congratulations to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will just observe that we have not yet been visited by Senator Chuck Schumer. I know he's been to other boards, so we certainly welcome him should he choose to visit us as well. So with that, we will move to the Landmarks Committee report. David and Jane.
Thank you, Russell. We had a very interesting evening with a wonderful presentation by the Friends of the Ruin, which we'll get to later. But I think David's we had 2 applications, which we heard on Monday, and David is going to take the first one.
First one is 201 East 65th Street. This is a canopy which is being placed over a stair. The stair has been existing since the point in time that the building was built. It is a minimalist, modernist building. And this canopy is very, very bright color. Some of the writing on it, "Care that never quits," is more of advertisements than than architecture. If we could go to the next one. We could put the next slide. Next, thank you. This gives you an idea of what's happening, because this building sits in a garden. It's a very quiet garden. It's surrounded by very quiet masonry walls. And we felt that this shape was very, very awkward and was very inappropriate in relation to the minimalist architecture. So the resolution was unanimous disapproval.
David, you might add that this is an individual landmark. It's the Manhattan House, one of the iconic modern buildings in New York.
True, it was designed by Mayer and Whittlesey and Skidmore, Owings and Merrill. And of course, Skidmore, Owings and Merrill is one of our great firms. And as Jane points out, I think this is the only modernist individual landmark in the city. So it's very unique. And anything that interrupts the overall aesthetic, I think is problematic. So in any event, I don't know if anybody has any comments or if somebody would just like to make a motion.
Marco has his hand up.
Thank you, David. The only thing I would like to add is there is a new regulations of the American Disability Act that any new entrance that considered as a means of egress has to be handicapped. Probably they may have an interior elevator to compliance, but they still need the second means of egress. This is a new regulations. So I think this is one more item that should be considered in this application. And that is what I oppose this application. Thank you.
Our issue is appropriateness, and that's why the handicapped elevator was not considered here. And that's from the point of view of Landmarks Preservation Commission. We're just addressing that application. If you want to vote against it because it doesn't have a new structure. You know, that's another reason that you might choose to. But the purpose of our reviews is appropriateness and context. And this is definitely not appropriate. It's definitely not in context.
Barry had his hand up first and I accidentally lowered it, and then Alita.
Call the question on the motion on the floor.
Is there a second?
Valerie.
So all in favor? I guess it goes to one of our secretaries.
Okay, I'll take this one. So raise your hand if you are voting no, abstaining, or not voting for cause. Lynn?
Lynn, just unmute.
I'm not voting for a cause. I know the owner of that practice.
Thank you. And Rebecca Lamort?
I'm voting no because of the lack of accessibility included in this. Thank you.
A yes is a disapproval. So.
Thank you. Sorry, I remuted myself before. So I am doing the opposite. Thank you for flagging that for me, Will. Thank you. Yeah.
Anybody else? All right, thanks. I'll tally the votes.
You guys can move to the next item in the meantime.
Oh, thank you. This is 14 East 60th Street. The application, the building was built in 1902. It was formerly a hotel and then converted to offices and restaurants in 1969. It's a beautiful old building. The application was really very simple and very nicely presented. It was a unanimous approval. The window replacement, you can see in the white outline, there's an arched window. Maybe you can't see it too closely, but you can see it above in the rendering. They want to make that into a French door that opens outward so that during the nice weather, it can be opened up and people can see in and out. The air can come in. Also for an awning, a canopy above the window that would replicate the canopy at an existing restaurant to the right, and the entrance to the restaurant on the left, which was approved at the staff level. In any case, we felt that the applicant did a nice job of maintaining consistency with the opening to the restaurant. The canopies are going to be similar in shape. The one over the entryway is a little shorter, but they're maintaining the beautiful arched window. It will just now be operable with the awning above. You see between the two openings, there's a little space where they're going to put a very simple, modest sign for the new restaurant that's going into the space, which will be brass and will be attached to the stone. So it was a unanimous approval. Does anybody want to speak to it? Anybody want to call the question?
Marco?
Yeah, I would like to call the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. I see their hands up still. If you are going to speak to this, your hand up. But if
the question's been called, but perhaps we can let one or two people speak.
Gail?
I wasn't going to speak to it. I was just going to second it.
Oh, thank you, Gail. Thank you. Okay, so I guess we can go to a vote.
So I guess it's me. So if you are, please raise your hand if you are voting no, abstaining, or not voting for cause. Give it a couple minutes. And it appears the resolution is carried, motion is carried unanimously. So thank you.
And so the other item of business we had was a presentation by Friends of the Renwick Ruin, which is on Roosevelt Island. It was just a marvelous presentation, which I hope one day the full board could see because it was not that long. And it's really such a moving idea. And I think all of us who were at the committee on Monday night really felt it was a privilege to see the presentation. But this is the ruins of this gorgeous hospital designed by James Renwick, who also designed St. Patrick's Cathedral. It's now a ruin, and it's just north of the Four Freedoms Park. It's really just monumentally beautiful in its own way. And the Friends of the Ruin want to make it into a memorial really for victims of plagues and endemics and medical catastrophes that have hit New York City. It was originally the smallpox hospital, and it had other uses as well over the years before it was discontinued as a place for medicine. But it also relates to the history of Roosevelt Island, when in the olden days it was Blackwell Island and supported many institutions for the insane, for prisoners. In fact, the hospital was built with prison labor, which was another fascinating little tidbit. In any case, the Friends of the Ruin has embarked on this effort to make it into a memorial in our city with also a public garden and it would be wonderful just north of the Four Freedoms Foundation. There are some wonderful images as part of the presentation, which you can click on the landmarks agenda available tonight. And we did pass a resolution in support of their efforts. It's a very beginning effort. They have a lot of fundraising to do. It's really a public-private partnership. They have received some minimal public funding so far, but we wanted to show our support. And my hope is, Russell, at one point, we can just show the presentation to the entire community board. So with that, I think the resolution is in front of you. And does anybody want to speak to it?
Marco and Lynn after.
The only thing is I'm going to call the question. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, Lynn might want to say something because she's the head of the Roosevelt Island Committee.
Lynn.
So yeah, I actually reached out to Landmarks earlier to do a joint meeting about this because I thought it was such a great presentation and what they were trying to do was really fantastic. I was unable to set that up, but I totally concur with Jane and this project. I think it's a fantastic project. I think what they're doing is amazing. They did make a presentation to the Roosevelt Island Committee earlier this year. I believe it was in January. And we supported at that time what they were doing. So I think it's great that they're moving it forward with a resolution. And I definitely concur with Jane that the entire board should see it, because any help that we can to get funding for this fantastic project is worth our energies. And thank you for bringing it up. And I knew that it was going to go before the committee. I actually recommended it after they presented at our committee. And so I'm glad it was so well received.
Thank you. I think Marco had called the question on the resolution, but at some point, maybe I will discuss with Russell about an appropriate time to show it. It's only 5 minutes long. But it's
Sure.
very,
Sharon has her hand up. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh,
Sharon,
okay.
Karen, just unmute.
Hi, I just wanted to second. I don't know. I wasn't sure if anyone seconded Marco's
no, you're
call to question.
okay. Thank you. No, no one had seconded it. So now we can go to a vote, I think.
All right, and this is an approval, so yes means yes. If you'd like to vote no, abstain, or not vote for cause, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none, that passes unanimously 43-0, and I'll read the earlier vote counts. The joint housing and zoning and development passed 43-0. Landmarks item 1, 42-0 with 1 not voting for cause, and landmarks item 2 was 43-0.
Okay. So I think we can move to the next committee.
Parks, good evening.
Hi,
But I believe Tricia had to leave early this
No,
evening.
I'm here.
Oh, good. It's all yours.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. We just had one item on our agenda tonight, one resolution. It had to do with updated plans for Lasker Pool and the Harlem Mere. I really do recommend you take a look at the minutes and at the video that we had from the presentation. It was thorough. If I'm hopefully not summarizing too much when I say that the real focus and shifts were meaningful, but they were towards focusing on a natural barrier between the mere and the waters and walkways there. And so all of the changes kind of were around this idea of better connecting in a more natural setting, how folks walk around the Harlem Mere. In addition to that, of course, there were some meaningful upgrades to the pool to make it blend more so into the landscape. I'm doing a terrible job of describing it, but really it seemed to be all changes in the right direction. And we voted in a resolution in favor of supporting the project.
Enthusiastically supporting the project.
Yes.
And by the way, I honor the project by having one of the images as my background tonight. Does anyone care to call the question?
Call the question? Or is that out of turn? Sorry.
I see no.
I'll call the question.
Is there a second, please? I see.
Yeah, Rita. And use the thumbs up, not the raise hand if you're seconding, please.
Great. All right, so taking a vote on this one, raise your hand if you're voting no, abstaining, or not voting for cause. Okay, seeing none, this passes 43-0. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, all.
Thank you. Next is the Environment and Sanitation Committee, Barbara and Kaz.
Yeah, hi. Okay, the resolution is there. We had a productive meeting in which Marissa from DSNY came. She was very responsive. She gave us a lot of information, some of which she was unable, but she took it back, and she did email us the next day with her replies, which are at the bottom of the resolution. So what we're kind of asking the DSNY is to reinstate Sunday pickup, make sure the trash cans are, the public ones on the street, are fully closed by the DSNY workers when they pick up the trash. But at the same time, you know, they're telling us that they do close them, and sometimes with people going through the cans, they leave them open and not fully in. So the next person that comes in drops it, and it's over, the spill's over. So the resolution is there. Any questions? Seeing no hands, anybody to call the question? Valerie.
And Marco also put his hand up, which I gather is probably a second.
Well, actually, I had a question. My raised hand hasn't been working. I mean,
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to appreciate the chairs of the committee. You know, we sent in pictures of a lot of open cans. I dispute what they're coming back with, that it's being done by people. I've documented that as soon as the cans are emptied, that they're not closed at all. And it has actually gotten worse. And in some ways, I think that it's almost like, since we made the complaint, more cans are open than they were before. So I would hope that the sanitation committee brings her back, because I think the problem is getting worse, not better.
Well, now with hopefully no more snow, I think the DSNY should be a bit more cooperative in taking our concerns more seriously, and we will get in touch with her. Thanks, Valerie. Marco?
Yes, I would like to call the question.
That's if Barbara doesn't have a question. You have a question, Barbara? Can you unmute?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
You can hear me now? Okay, I wasn't unmuted before. No, I was just going to say, I think Valerie is very right. I've been walking around and seeing I was not able to close most of the doors. I tried for two reasons. One is the baskets were not emptied, and because they were half out of the bins, water got into them and the cold weather ice, and they were impossible for me to push in. And the second, when I was able to, the door just didn't stay closed. So it is a much more complicated issue. And I won't say there was no human input, but for the most part, they're not taking care of the garbage cans. And I think we will need to do more, cause.
Yeah, definitely we will have them back, and hopefully they will be able to
Right.
answer more definitively.
And you did mention the Sunday pickup also?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's in the resolution to
Great.
reinstate
Yeah.
the Sunday pickup.
Particularly on main arteries such as 86th Street, which is such a, is probably the most business oriented street. And Sunday, the lack of Sunday pickup has really made the street much more, has added to the fact that the street is so much more dirty.
Right. And also now with no snow and everything else, they should have a bit more time. Okay, the question's been called. Do we have a second? Just the thumbs up from somebody. If not, I will second it.
Michelle.
And we go to
I'll
the
second it.
secretary. All your secretaries, whichever one.
I think it's me or I. All right. Please raise your hands if you are voting no, abstaining, or not voting for cause. So seeing no hands, this is passed unanimously. I think we can move on.
Thank you. Okay, and thank you, Kaz and Barbara. So next will be the arts, the joint report from the Arts Committee and Small Business Committee meeting. Alita and Valerie.
Thank you. Well, artists are small businesses, so we had a joint meeting to talk with Art on the Ave co-founder Barbara Anderson, as you may know, and Gail Brewers talked about it. Art on the Ave was a project in which the storefront windows of both vacant and occupied stores gave up their space for a gallery-like hanging of art. In the end, the artist's work sold for $54,000, which, given that the works began at $600 up to $2,000, was quite a bit of art. So she talked about the problems and the obstacles in trying to get this put forward, the expenses of it, and the results, which were very positive for pedestrians, for the businesses, for the landlords, and for the artists. They had QR codes, so people were able to listen to artists' explanations. And the people who attended the committee meeting, the board members, were excited about trying to do something like this on the Upper East Side. So we had a unanimous resolution supporting work of Art on the Ave and any joint ventures between Art on the Ave and the Upper East Side bids, such as I think the East Midtown Alliance. Rob Burns' bid was interested in and has already reached out to Art on the Ave, working with local artists, student artists, and artists in NYCHA to create our own exhibitions for the arts. So that resolution passed unanimously. Are there any comments or questions? Valerie, did you want to add anything?
I just wanted to say it's an excellent program. For those of you who are unfamiliar with it, if you go to the Arts on the Avenue website, it gives you a really great explanation. And also, if you know an artist, they're accepting, I think it might have just closed right before our meeting on the 15th, but if you know an artist who's interested, they can get their art in the next show, which is in a neighborhood. I don't know which one, but it's a great program and I hope we will go forward with it. It's beneficial to both the landlords and the open storefronts as well as the artists, and it's a great boon to the community as well.
It is, and the way she described it, pedestrians would walk by, catch a glimpse of the art. Then the next time they walked by, they'd stop and they'd look at it. And the third time they walked by, they'd click on the QR code so they'd hear from the artists. And it was very successful, so much so that they're now doing a project out in the village and another larger one. So hopefully, and I spoke to Barbara yesterday, hopefully there will be ways to do something like that and give a vitality to our streets, to the businesses, to the artists. So we'll be looking for local artists and students. I think Rami Siegel and some others have offered to reach out to schools. We'll be looking for local artists, artists who live in NYCHA. I know Wilma Johnson's an artist who lives in NYCHA, and we'll be able to work and bring more art to the Upper East Side. There was one other thing that I was going to say, but which I forgot, but I see that Rebecca Dangor has her hand up and Michelle. Is Michelle first?
Yeah, Michelle?
Yes, thank you. Just a quick question. I don't see it in the resolution. You talked about the art had been for sale and the sales, were about 54,000, whatever. Do the landlords get a percentage of the sales?
No, just the art.
Where does so the landlords are donating the space and the artists are collecting all of the monies. Is that true?
That's right.
It's true.
That's right. The theory is, Michelle, that you look into the space and it'll attract people that may want to rent the space. So you're sort of bringing the traffic to that open storefront and somebody may come by, take a look, because the art is not supposed to obstruct the view into the open space. So you're giving sort of the open storefront an ability to be viewed for possible rental by somebody who comes by.
So the benefit to the landlord is that it's a marketing issue. Have there been any store rentals as a result of this project?
They did rent some spaces, but it's unknown whether the rentals were as a direct result of this particular project. But the stores that had the occupied stores were very happy to have the art in it, even though they were in the windows and people didn't go into the stores. There are obstacles with landlords. So if there are any landlords watching this meeting that are interested in our using the space, please, we welcome it. What Barbara had said was that there were only 2 times they needed access to the storefront, which was to put it up and to take it down. And that meant that if the artwork sold, it had to stay up until the end of the show. It ran for 3 months. and was in the New York Times as a thing to do on a holiday weekend. So it began before Christmas and it ended at the end of January.
Thank you.
Rebecca, and then we'll go to Lynn.
I was going to call to question and welcome the new committee, but I will ask that no one seconds until Lynn speaks.
Thank you, Rebecca. Lynn?
Hi, I just wanted to mention while you were talking about artwork, if you look at what's behind me, that was part of our event on Saturday. And it was a light display by some super creative, talented artists on Roosevelt Island. And that display was put onto the Kohler Hospital. What you saw was this light energy that said, see us, hear us, nursing home lives matter, isolation kills. And it was an incredible presentation that that they did, and I think it's another way of looking at art that I didn't hear discussed, but it's something that I wanted to throw out there. I don't know whether we could raise funds for the people in the facility by doing stuff like that, but it was really an impressive work. So I just wanted to point that out.
Right. Well, we formed a working group to work on bringing that kind of project, the storefront art project, to the Upper East Side. And I'm setting up a time for that meeting. But Lynn, you should come to our next art meeting so we could talk about all of this, because we're also going to talk about performing arts and we don't have a street in the open culture program, nothing on the Upper East Side, but what we do have is James Cagney Place, which would be a great venue for all kinds of performing artists. So that's next to explore. With respect to the resolution, anyone? Oh, you did want to call the question, Rebecca. Is there a second?
Gail.
And Russell. Okay, so I guess the next secretary then.
If you would like to vote no, abstain, or not vote for cause, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none, this item passes unanimously, 43 to 0 to 0.
Thank you. And I really encourage everyone to join the working group, the committee, to come and speak out, because the arts are so sorely needed, and these kinds of projects could really benefit real estate, the pedestrians, the residents, visitors. We will get them back at some point, and the small businesses as well as the artists. So thank you, everyone. It's good to see all you guys.
Thank you. All right, next is the Street Life Committee. Abraham.
All right, thanks, Russell. Hi, everyone. Good evening. For Street Life, we had 9 unanimous SLA approvals, and then we'll have 1 item of carryover business, which we heard from the public session. So do I have any hands for the 9 unanimous approvals?
Ed Hartzog?
Call the question on all 9.
You'd like to take them all together? Great. Do I have a second?
Rebecca Dangor seconded, but I do have several hands up. Lower your hands if you were just planning to. Michelle, you have a question?
I do. I would like to ask that as we go from committee to committee, that the resolutions come up on the screen. They did for the last 1 or 2, but for example, this one, I'd like to see it. The landmarks one wasn't on the screen. So can we make that a practice for these meetings going forward? It's very helpful
So for the
resolution to be up.
Yeah, so and Will's been doing it for the last several. For landmarks, I will just say, I mean, I think it's more helpful for folks to see a rendering of the proposal usually.
Yes, I agree. But for the beginning resolutions, the resolutions were not on the screen because I was texting Will to please put them up. So I'm glad to see that this one is, and I just want to
Michelle,
just say I'd like that practice.
When they're taking 8 together, I can't put all of them up on the same screen.
They're on the same screen now.
No, I mean, that's just the first one.
Well, but it's 4 pages. Can we scroll down?
Well, it gets a little bit distracting to have it sort of the pages flipping and what have you. So
all of the materials are on the website.
Let's go ahead with the, yeah, we'll keep going.
Okay, great. So we have agreement to take them all together. Do I have any hands for questions, comments, or motions? Okay,
Alita, you have one.
Thank you. What I've been noticing is that a lot of delivery guys are ratcheting up the e-bikes to motor scooters, motorbikes, motorcycles even. They're riding them on the sidewalks. They are parking them on the sidewalks. They're treating them like bicycles and going the wrong way, using bike lanes. So I'm wondering, Abraham, if you would consider in your stipulations addressing the issue of motorcycles and motor scooters. There are no pedals there. It's just completely engine driven.
Yeah, you're right. There's definitely been a proliferation of this. Both on
I raised this at your meeting, so I'm just
both in
throwing it out
terms
there
of
now.
riding on the sidewalk. Yep. So definitely something to continue to keep revisiting. So thank you for that. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Do I have any other hands? Billy?
Call the question.
Okay, great. Do I have a second for calling the question?
Second.
Okay. I'm taking that as Ed as your second. Okay. All in favor? If there's anyone opposed to calling the question, raise your hand. Otherwise, I will hand it over to our esteemed secretaries.
All right, I'll be taking this one. So please raise your hand if you're voting no, abstaining, or not voting for cause. Okay, great. Seeing none, it is voted 43 in favor and 0 against on these 9.
Great, thanks, Billy. Okay, so now we have item 4A. This was the application from 811 Lexington Corp. We heard about this in the public session. There was a mix-up with their filings, so we did not get the 30-day notice in time. So they're requesting a 30-day renewal, a 30-day waiver, so that they can get their license renewed. So for this one, I know that their license has been pending for some time. So do I have any hands? Do I have anyone that would like to make a motion to hopefully to approve? Billy?
Go ahead, Billy.
Sorry, just to be clear, the motion to be approved, giving them the waiver, Abraham?
Correct. This would be an approval to give them the waiver so that SLA can give them their license.
Yeah, I'd like to move to approve.
Okay, great. Thank you. Marco?
I'm going to second.
Great. Wonderful. Okay, so we have a second. Great. So then do I have another hand to call the question? Or any other questions? Peggy?
Just calling the question. Thanks.
Okay, great. Okay, then I'm assuming hands up are to second to call the question. Great. Anyone opposed? Great, good. Okay, so seeing no opposals, we'll go to our secretaries on the call the question on the approval to grant 30-day waiver.
Okay, so as we are usually doing, those who are opposed, abstaining, or not voting for cause on granting the waiver, please raise your hands. Wow. Seeing none, the motion to grant the waiver is approved.
All right. Thank you. So,
oh, sorry, Russell. And the last two, so the two collective street life items were 44 to 0 to 0 for the record.
okay, excellent. All right, so I think unless there's anything else on street life, we will just move to the next item on the agenda, which is old business, of which there is none. New business, is there any new business? I don't see anything. So I think we can adjourn if someone wants to make a motion. And Barry has his hand up. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Move to adjourn.
Okay, Ed, let's go to Ed and see if Ed is seconding here.
Well, Mrs. Brown is up, Judy.
Yes, indeed.
Excellent. Okay. Any opposition to that motion? Don't see any. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of St. Patrick's Day.